HFDA Academy, a Magyar Divat és Design Ügynökség rendezvénysorozata, amely a hazai és nemzetközi kreatív ipar aktuális kérdéseire, valamint divat és dizájnipari újdonságaira reflektál.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your patience and welcome all of you to our discussion, which will be, as you see, a roundtable discussion. Shortly, I'll introduce the speakers to you. And this event is part of a series. As you see, it's called Inside Art. It's like a conference, a room for discussion. So our event is part of this series that runs in these couple of days. Very happy that you are here. Very happy that you are also here. But I'm also very happy that you are here because we know Budapest is offering so much in art and design right now, here in this house, but also at many other venues. So thank you very much for spending this hour of your afternoon with us. The topic we have for today, the theme of this discussion, will be the relation of art and design, the differences between them, and more specifically, the nature of this relation, how they inspire one another, and how these two fields feel like from the perspective of creation. Now that we are sitting in this building that houses a huge art fair and also a very interesting design exhibition, it's really apt that we talk about these two fields. Let me briefly introduce my speakers because they will introduce themselves in a little bit more depth. So Audrone Drungilaite is sitting next to me. She's from Vilnius. Thank you very much for waving at them so that everyone knows who is who. So she's a designer, and among many other things, she is also general director of the Lithuanian Design Forum. But she will say more. Tanja Pak is sitting next to her in the middle. She's a designer from Ljubljana. She got her master's degree at the Royal College of Art, and now she is full professor at the Academy of Fine Art of the University of Ljubljana, and she will speak more about that, she's heading Glass and Ceramics Department. And at the very end of this line, Giovanni Ottonello, art director of the Institute of European Design, and originally an architect who got into fashion and design, and he was doing a lot of things, cooperating with museums and events all over the world and doing consultancy for companies and brands of a very wide range from Salvatore Ferragamo to like Procter & Gamble. So this is quite a wide range. So before we would jump into discussing this topic, I'd like to ask all of you to do a short presentation of what is your professional background, what is the most important thing you want to show in today's audience. So please, Audrone, it's your start.
So hello everyone, thank you for a nice introduction. And today here I'm really happy that you invited me, and there are slight misunderstandings in my position, but I will explain you later because things are changing. But basically I came from Lithuania, from Vilnius, but my whole story started in Klaipėda, the never freezing port of Lithuania, where I was born and grown up. And I was raised in a family that basically has no connection with art, and my mother is an economist and father came from business. But my grandfather was a smither, so maybe this one kind of connection why I always wanted to do something with art. My story happened that I was not sure what I would really like to do, but I knew that I have this some artistic part and also this manager's part, and I was always standing quite down to earth. But from the early age, even when I was studying at the children art school, local children art school, I realized that I would really like to work with design. And after all, I ended up at Vilnius Academy of Arts studying product design, and my master was cultural management and policy. Later on, I received an invitation to join Lithuanian Design Forum, which is a non-governmental organization. And they were looking for a director. This position was quite challenging because my previous experience were just some part-time jobs in totally different fields. but they trusted me, and one of the best known projects was Design Week Lithuania. That was happening every year, and the fun fact is that it was happening at the same time in 6 cities. So you should try to imagine what does it mean to be traveling around 6 cities in a 1 week. But these were super fun times. Here's an image from our pre-pandemic project. We started with it like in 2011 or something. It's called Design Windows. So there were no thoughts about pandemics at that time. And later this format became quite popular. But we were doing this just before that, and we were covering the city with different kind of designs made by young talents. And it was a really nice collaboration with various shops and cafeterias and so on. As a complementary project that was always going together with Design Week was National Design Awards, where I was involved, and was also a very interesting experience organizing awards from various locations like Presidential Palace or National Library, Museum of Applied Arts, and so on. So the jury was always, and is still always international, so this curatorial job was like a really good tool to promote Lithuanian designers and design like a global thing in Lithuania. But as I was growing and I was looking for some larger scale projects, so we started the Design Lithuania project, and it was like a really low budget, nothing sophisticated, but traveling exhibitions. So we visited different European cities and capitals and countries like Sweden, Germany, Israel. We did one exhibition in Budapest in 2015. And these all exhibitions really grown me like a curator, I should say. And it was super fun, it was cool, but then I realized that after these 5 years at Lithuanian Design Forum, I was looking a little bit for comfort. Because running an NGO, it means you always have not enough people, you have to deal with unexpected situation, finances are never balanced well. So that's how I was invited by one of our members, EMCO. So that's a design studio, which is, basically I was the only person with designer's diploma, and I worked there as creative director. But this studio was focusing on commercializing young talents' works. So it was a really good experience in seeing how to develop the real object, the real product from the sketch to the final packaging and how to sell it. So it was an interesting experience. And then I was really missing my curatorial part, so did several commercial exhibitions. This is from Lithuanian Pavilion in Maison Objet in Paris in 2019, where 9 furniture companies we went together with the support of Enterprise Lithuania and presented their pieces of furniture. But when pandemic started, so times had changed, and all physical curatorial work was hardly imaginable. So thanks to Christian and other Danish guys team who invited me to join Adorno collectible design gallery, and we curated, in my opinion, it was a huge success during pandemics, the first virtual exhibition in my life, but it was really good media coverage, and when nothing was happening, and we did that in London Design Festival format. It was really good experience because there are no limits when you're doing something like virtually, because you don't need to measure, you don't need to pack things, you don't need to calculate transportation costs, so we can do it whenever we want. And that's how I came up with collectible design, which is a little bit different than I was used to work with these down-to-earth projects, because collectible design is usually a bit different, more fancy. Nobody's thinking how to transform. Usually designers are not thinking a lot about the pricing and so on. But I really like this balance, and nowadays I'm really balancing between these management and design parts, and collectible design, seeking is like my extracurriculum activity. But I do believe that design, whatever is product design or it's collectible design, it should have a purpose, whether aesthetic or whether functional. So just some time ago, just last year, one of the missions together with other Baltic countries, we really had a dream to present together. So I was also involved in the Tactile Baltics exhibition in London, and which was a huge success and attracted many people. So some dreams that we were dreaming about that, I don't know, many years ago, but that never happened. So I realized that life is changing, and some things that were just only these that we could dream of, they are becoming true. And after all, I was invited by Vilnius Academy of Arts, where I'm currently working as a director of Design Innovation Center. So that's my alma mater university, where I spent 6 years, and it's super fun to come back to it. So I'm dealing with young designers trying to promote their works abroad and also to commercialize. Due to this, downstairs you can find 2 Lithuanian design objects. One is by Marija Gradauskaitė, who created a wonderful seating object. It has never been shown somewhere abroad before. And also an object, let's say conceptual coffee table that is made out of used car window glass. This designer, this was her graduation project, and she wanted to make it like reuse these leftovers. So yeah, you can find these objects here, and I expect a really fruitful discussion. And I'm always looking for a balance between these 2 kinds of design, whether it's a functional design or it's a collectible design. So thank you, and
thank you for the introduction. And it was great to see how already your personal introduction included so much of the artistic part of design and the very hardcore, down-to-earth ideas of design. So Tanja, please.
Hello, everybody. I would really like to thank the organizers for this beautiful invitation and the chance to be here. And I would like to thank Ms. Esther Bohus from Bohus-Lugossy Foundation to bring me here. And yes, I'm coming from Ljubljana, and I will briefly show you how I think and what I think. So yes, for me, I will talk mainly about glass, and glass for me is pure poetry. And it attracts me by its elusiveness, a dialogue between outside and inside, up front, somewhere in the middle, and after it is being played out on its translucent border. And I would say that glass demands passion, and this would be passion for dialogue, for breathing, for exploration, and yes, passion for poetry. So my background is industrial design, and it gave me the ability to critical analyze and systematically problem solve things. And then Master of Art enabled me completely different view to interpret impressions from the outside world, as well as very intimate responses to whatever is happening around. So glass is perfect medium for conveying my thoughts and intimate responses. And of course, it's perfect medium for objects that we use every day and that capture light and make the space within the space. So, because I work as artist and as designer as well, I would like to show 2 different approaches to the same material. So when designing everyday products, of course, I think about the user, about the hold of the hand, about the touch of the lips, how the lips touches the rim of the glass. And I consider the properties of glass and the properties of the production. And I do look for the immensity and perfection in the harmony of function, proportional symmetry, and that never completely worked out that you would find the story that you would find in every product. So when I design, I think about the movement that is caused by a pebble that I throw in the water. I think about the kids, how they play in the puddles on a Sunday afternoon. I think about raindrops, how they touched the surface of the lake when I was sitting there with my love, and how the moonlight came there and it spread a light on the surface of the lake. So when I design bowls, they're not just the forms, but they become memories of thoughts that spill over the surface, ripple and unite in a constant movement and flow, and they always somehow carry the understanding of the material and sustainable principles and create, as I said before, space inside the space that we live in. So, design for me is all about proportions, about the feel of the glass in your hands, whether filled or empty, and a balance between extremes that particular technology has to offer. And I strive to capture the moment in its stillness with my glass, the airiness in the hard matter. So I still draw my designs by hand, and when I draw the line, I think about how the glass flows, how it slowly goes to the bottom of the mold, how it slowly takes the shape of the mold, and how it freezes, just like water, and it always captures a certain moment of our lives. And for example, flow, that was on the screen before, it carries the thought about importance of water, how precious it is, and how we have to protect what we have available in present times. So it's not about the producing forms, it's really about capturing the moments. It's about evoking feelings and steering emotions. And through countless tests, I translate, for example, like here, the feel of how I experience the Arctic winter and cold and the wind. And I tested how I can put all that into the material on its surface or in the form. And due to their tactile quality, they can recall then the certain moment from our memory. So yes, I am looking for the immensity and the infinity of the actual landscapes, mirroring those inside my awareness. And I seize the feel of the landscapes, the elusiveness of the horizon, the fleeting light, and the cold and the silence with the feelings that I or the camera can only capture for a moment, but it stays in my memory. So I wonder about the forms of solitudes and the proximities which we reach beyond their silence, and the spaces in between that actually define us. And my greatest challenge is to capture the sole idea, the feeling in the matter, which becomes almost non-material. It's not there anymore. And it just leaves the essence of a thought, just a sense, the feeling, emotion, or just a yearning. So I try to bring the processes of glass forming to their extreme points. And over the years of studies and experiments, I have developed my own procedures to achieve almost extreme feeling of fragility and weightlessness, with aim to find parallels with the emotions of human being. So my passion are spatial installations, which, because of the narratives, include glass as a perfect carriers for my emotions and my feelings. And I do understand these settings almost like through dramaturgical perspective, like a story. And I am addressing all the senses, not just touch, not just sight, but also smell or sound. And when I listen to Advopets, for example, music piece for Alina, I feel those music tones almost like a raindrops that would be falling through me instead around me. So I feel like I'm in them, And this is my visual response to the music piece. So glass is the only material that enables us a view to the other side and through it, and it reveals to us what is hidden inside. So glass makes things unreal, or sometimes conjures them into life, and my imprint, landscapes, can be safe asleep into that translucent layer of glass. And in glass that opens and obscures, everything is here and there. It's here and not here at the same time. It's at the same time far, far away, and nothing is real, and nothing can be really seized. And yes, in this glass I can create my own landscapes of reveries. And I think in glass how elusive our day is, how we walk through this time, and how fleeting our presence is. And the question of presence and form of breath in its entire symbolism has long played an important role in my work. And these breaths are a quiet time for introspection, a time between all that was and a time between all that was to come. So they are like an infinite moment between here and now, and they seem motionless and yet stretched to infinity. So today, when we have experienced the time of different solitudes, it seems as the once ethereal and airy breath has turned inwards into the silent world of memories and longings. And in this time of questionings, I myself wonder more and where the border is between here and there, between being and non-being. And in glass, due to its unique properties, I can play with saturation to create visual spaces that are not really there. And it follows my thoughts, traveling to the image of the sea, disappearing into the sky. And yes, in glass, I can recall the hunch of blue behind the fog and the feeling of floating in the space in between. So to conclude, I process my feelings through glass, and they make me present here and now. And the light in glass can make me, with these feelings, can make me singular and unrepeatable in space and time. So the forms can always be repeated, I believe, and the intangible that lies in it and invisibly flows over its edge never can be. So yes, in glass I can be a dreamer, creating subtle fields of consciousness for the world. And speaking of intersection between art and design, I love the spaces and crossing between what I can use and spaces where I can dream. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. It wasn't actually like a professional introduction, more like a performance, or I would say a love poem for glass, or a love poem for creation or being a creator. Thank you. It was really, really beautiful. We haven't even started discussing our theme, and I feel like there was so much arty aspect of design. So let us go to this guy in full black after this woman in full white. So Giovanni, please.
Okay, thank you so much, of course. Thanks for the invitation. And today we finish with me, but in general, I arrive before. No, in the design method, I arrive before. Because with me, usually the company decide to create a starting point, an identity, a vision, no? And then step by step, they arrive to design a product. So today I decided to show my method, not my product or my a list of my project. I prefer to use, sorry the voice, I prefer to show you the images, no? Because I work with images, and today you work with images, no? You scroll every day tons of images without an idea about that. And this one is the failure, no, of the design, no? Because we spend our time, money to create something, and someone in a few microseconds decided to abandon the image. Usually I start with a quote because I think that it's very important to have an idea about the past, no, but also about the pillars, no, of the design or of the story. In this case, I used Saarinen. Saarinen was an architect, was the father of the very famous Eero Saarinen, no? And this one is the quote, you know, art was born as the desire, not as demanded. And behind this simple quote, there is exactly the definition or the one of them idea about design and art. Okay, I'm exactly in the middle. Now, I decided during my life, during my career, to put the feet inside of passion, my passion. Indeed, my mother has no exactly an idea about my job, and I told her before. And when someone asked to my mother, "What's the job of your son?" she replies, "He lives in Milan." Now, living in Milan was a profession, but because I'm an architect, but during my life I changed completely my attitude, my point of view. And this one is exactly the success in general, no? Is point of view. What's that? No? In a few seconds, if I change my position, if I move my eyes, this picture will be a simple dog. In this moment, in that moment, in this exactly precise point of view, I create something completely different. And this one is the attitude, my attitude. Huh? Usually I create something, I create a gap between me and the company, me and the students, me and my job. Because without this idea, now we disappear. One of the most incredible projects that I've done, I wanted to describe only one. I was in Saudi Arabia, thanks ID for the opportunity, and I collaborate with a company in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia, to redesign the abaya. The abaya is the black coat of the women that decide to cover her body. And in that moment, I decided not to design something, I don't know, with bows or with pleats or something luxury or fashionable. But the first step, it has been, tell me something about that. Change your point of view and tell me something different. Exactly like that. And what was that? This is a jacket or a t-shirt. But in the same time, I transform the jacket and the t-shirt in a cow, in a story. Behind these garments lays down on the sun will be, I don't know, Mongolia or another landscape, another country. And when I change the country, I change the identity. Design is also identity. Art is identity. And everything is in connection. Don't be afraid about that, no? But there is a connection between events and a river. And that is the opportunity every day that we can do when we wake up in the morning or when we walk in the street. No? The idea that everything is in connection, in balance. The life is in balance. Always we are in the middle. In the middle what? Depends on you. And depends on me. My story, exactly my mother. And because I start with the food design, and then I change my identity in a theatrical approach, and I design scenography and costume design, then consultant for luxury. But what's luxury? You know? How many levels? How many different kind of definition of luxury we have? No? And this one is an idea, no? Because my job and my life is completely live in the present, no? The Milk of Dreams is the topic about the Biennale of Art in Venice. And we are here, today in the wonderful place full of art. In Venice, finished in November, we have one of the most important exhibitions in the world about the art, And you can read exactly the 3 different levels. Okay, this is my life. It's always in balance between individuals and technology, metaverse and so on. Between bodies and heart. Today, Gerard talked about sustainability. And we have to save the planet. And the bodies and their metamorphosis. And we have seen her with the idea to play with the glasses, the transparency of glasses. And that is absolutely. And I wanted to finish with this. This is the quote today. What's the difference between art design? I'm in the middle. And this one is my life. Art exhibition, product, fashion, museum, interior design, movie, But at the end, there is a red thread that junk everything is the curiosity. Without curiosity and passion, we don't exist. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It feels like a literary festival. Everyone is so poetic and says such beautiful things. So the initial question that says, what's the biggest difference between art and design, is somehow answered in a way from the presentation of the 3 of yours. It feels like we might speak about the differences, but there's no way in design that doesn't include art in any sense. Would you agree with this? So in design, there's always the aspects of art, or there is clean and 100% design object that has nothing to do with the idea of art. What's your take on this?
I think this is very difficult to answer, actually, but not impossible. But I believe that it's the matter of definition, actually, what is art, what is design. But, you have these crossings between one and the other. You always have design elements that you have to understand in art and design. So I would say it's design elements, the rules of design theory, art theory, they have to be in this way, in this field and here.
The other 2?
I see there's a correlation between 2 words, arts and artistic. So we all can ask a question, can design be created by a person who is not artistic? Probably not, because then it's just a boring object. It can have a function, but normally then it's not a good design, it's just a functional object. And that's also, in my opinion, this intersection is really important, because sometimes designers are not wanting to be called artists because it looks like a little bit more bohemian and so on. And artists that are doing sometimes are balancing in between design scene. They sometimes want to feel more sophisticated, and they don't want when we call them designers. But after all, I think that both kind of personalities should be artistic, and art is somewhere at least a bigger amount or smaller amount. It should exist in every piece of design.
What's your take on this?
I think that we have a lot of design work, not artwork, that we can transform in an art. No, I finished with the MoMA. MoMA is full of design, no, because someone decided to suspend the functionality and transform the 500 Fiat or the Vespa or this chair in an artwork. But not an opposite side. When someone think about an artwork, on passion, not on demand, it's not easy that we can find the transformation from artwork in a design work. No, because the functionality is exactly the paradigm that divide, I sit down on the chair, but someone decide that this chair is an art. artwork. And so I think that is impossible in the starting point decided to mix or to divide it. Depends on the success on the item, and depends on the success on the communication. Today, without communication, it's impossible to decide. No, yes, art, no art. Yes, design, no design.
So it's functionality that makes a clear distinction between the two. Because of creating art, we like to think it's a process in which an artist, in a way, loses himself. Like you just stand in front of the canvas and it's happening to you. And you have no rules other than the size of the canvas and the material that you are using. Whereas in design, you always have a particular problem you have to solve. You have an issue to relate to. You have to find a form to create something that will help people in their lives, in a way. So function would be a clear distinction between the two. What's the situation when a museum, for a particular show, goes to an artist and asks him to be part of this show and gives like guidelines or gives a structure for that particular artwork? In that sense, the two fields come closer to one another. The idea that there are these sort of rules in the creation, is it then when art looks closest to design?
I would slightly disagree with Giovanni because...
Very good.
Feeling proud of myself. No, honestly, I think that first of all, there are many disagreements on what is design. And in discussion with myself, with the one part of me agree that design should be about the function, problem solving, and that's a very traditional approach to design.
You disagree with this definition?
I have like this bipolar feelings now.
Okay.
Because on the other hand, when we start to talk about collectible design, so it's not always about real problem, big problem solving, because artists are usually, of course, they're coming up with an idea from their inner world and, let's say, sometimes approaching the world and the environment, but more often they can come just with their own particular problematics, while designers are exploring and looking for something global. But in collectible design, there are just some nice pieces, and I don't feel anything bad about that it just looks really good, it looks like an art piece. And quite often, if it's a chair or other kind of object, quite often they're even not comfortable, they're not so functional, they're not very ergonomic to sit. So then they're really balancing between this artwork and design work.
Why do they qualify design works then? If it's a chair that looks really stunning and it's incredibly creative and looks like an artwork, but it's not really functioning as a chair, as you don't want to sit on that, why does it qualify into being a collectible design object instead of being a collectible art object?
Last week, a few weeks ago, we had a workshop in Vilnius Academy of Arts by a Latvian designer who is now based in the Netherlands, Germans Ermisch, and he's creating glass pieces, like merging into some objects, like, for example, chair. Really worth Googling. Very beautiful designs, but many people, when they see these objects, they say, oh, this chair is not very comfortable to sit. And he's saying, yeah, but you don't need to sit on it. It's like a sculpture. Even if it looks like a chair, of course, it's solving the problem of human seating. But, even the stone is solving the problem of seating because you can sit on it. So...
A provocation. In my opinion, in this case, is a bad design. An example, no? Because what's design? Design is, I design something, no? A sketch. But design depends on another word. Fashion design, interior design, product design, light design, packaging design, no? Okay. And I'm inside of this completely and crazy world, no? But at the end, when I sit down on the chair on the desk, I sketch something for someone. And I create a link between me and another person, target, that decided to sit down on my chair. Okay, or exactly, I decided to design a jacket with 25 sleeves. No? It's, wow, it's super interesting, 25 sleeves. But it's impossible to drive or to take the bus or to walk, and what's that? This one is a creative act. It's a wonderful act. But if I decided to, what's the definition of design functionality, or I decide to spend money for a performance of that, I have a problem to drive a car, to take a taxi, to move, or to sit down for 40 minutes here in a panel, because I have a problem to stay. And what's that? In my opinion, that is not art. In this case, it's a bad combination between your idea to be an artist and the idea to be a designer. But you are not neither and either, in my opinion. No? It's because I think that an artist decided to design something for creating an empathy, an emotion, Stendhal syndrome, an emotion with someone. And in this case, it's not important the functionality, or it's not important the bad or not, or it's beautiful. In this case, we enter in another level. Design, it's the combination between, we have design ethical and aesthetic. Ethic and aesthetical are different.
Tanja, what was your take on that? Because you were also...
I turned on my microphone.
You were also very passionate.
Well, I think it's a question and a difference between good design and bad design, not just design. And good design, I believe, makes our life a little bit easier. And I believe it's not just about producing things that solve problems, but it's also about detecting the problems and solving them before we even realize we have them. And also producing services that make our life easier. So it's not just about the products. And going back to the intersection between the two, I believe the common thing would be, at least for me, I can talk about my experience, would be the starting point, which is a story, and then it's always the same, is the research, is analyzing process, is a very systematic look at it, and then it divides into what we just said, to design, which takes into account function, sustainability, production, technology, everything else, and it has to serve certain needs at the end. And then on the other side, it goes in the other direction from that section, from that crossing, into something which I call art for me. And this is more about addressing certain problems, pointing them out, expressing individual responses to the world. So this is where I see the difference between the two, but after the same starting point. And maybe when you were asking about the flow, the artist coming into the flow, I don't believe in that, really. Just flow like coming from the air. Or intuition that you just express yourself. No, it is possible. Of course it happens, but only after you have certain ground. You have to have certain knowledge, experience, and then you can have a flow.
I totally agree with you. I'm just saying, having talked to a lot of artists and hearing them explaining that they started working late in the evening at 10 o'clock and they don't know what exactly happened to them, but they finished by like early in the morning next day, and they can't recall the whole thing, but it's like a process, it's a real flow kind of thing. But I agree, it needs basics to be able to fly from somewhere. I agree with you. When we go back into seeing the similarities and differences between the two, a product or an object, let it be a work of art or a work of design, should be able to reach out to people, to communicate to them. Do you think they communicate differently? They have different tools when you speak about a work of art or a wonderful, creative and people serving design piece, do they have different jobs in reaching out to their audiences? It's yours.
Super fast. Depends the goal. No? In general, example, the sustainability, no? Behind there is a message. No? I can use a sustainable material, no? And my message is, I'm a company, a sustainable company, and I show you that I'm sustainable through the materials, the fabric. Or I use the communication to support my idea to be sustainable. In fashion, the fabric, and so on. The difference between art and design in this case is the language and the message. No? Art, it's the contemporary art, you have to study exactly the process behind to read the artwork and the message. Sometimes don't arrive immediately, no?
Especially in conceptual art, or somewhere where you can be completely lost and you need a lot of knowledge to be able to open the piece.
If I see a cat, what's that? I'm able to use, no? I'm able to do exactly the same, no? But behind it there is a long story, there is a journey, no? In the design we have the story, the journey, but in the design something is more easy to read it, no? There is a different impact.
Would you agree with that? No. How the surfaces go? No, you wouldn't, of course. Would you?
No, it's really interesting how today we talk a lot about easy things, about serving something, serving humans, making life better, easier. And I'm just wondering, maybe sometimes we shouldn't look for that easiest way. And I agree that the main difference probably between art pieces and design is that usually when artist creates something, he's not thinking a lot about the target audience, about that person who will watch into that piece of artwork. So it can particularly be dedicated for one or another venue. But when we talk about design, normally, like if we look methodically, so there should be a problem, then some kind of problem solving. We know all these double diamond methods and so on. But sometimes in experimental design, and especially when the definition of design is really transforming nowadays, and we talk a lot about service design, UX design, which is, yes, serving human needs, but there's also a different way of design, and especially the younger generation is looking for, they don't want to be in some kind of boundary, so they're looking for really interdisciplinary things, and more often it's becoming hard to identify whether it's design or art, or it's just an experiment, or it's just a performance. So it's a two-way street, and in my opinion is that I agree and disagree, and it's not just black or white, and it depends on the context, it depends on the artist, designer, and what I would like to say that design is not only about the function all the time. Of course it should have, because the world is full of unsustainable things and of rubbishes, and it's a luxury to make things that are not long lasting and not solving does not have any purpose. But on the other hand, some invitation to rethink some things, manifestos through design, it's also worth. So I wouldn't say that these pieces that are beautiful or provocating, that it's just a bad design.
I agree. It doesn't qualify necessarily as bad design. Tanja?
No, I absolutely agree with you. It is about the context where we put things. It's also important how we perceive them then. And I think design is also about thinking how we can use less than more. It's not really about producing things, but about taking care of how we are going to live and survive in this planet. So I think design answers to that as well.
And also talking about the comfort and making life better by design, I'm just looking into her heels, and they were invented by designers, let's say, and designed. But this is definitely not making your life very better, and you would probably feel more comfortable with sneakers.
I have them in my bag.
Yeah, so that's a very normal thing. But still, what I'm saying is that it's not only about feeling comfortable, and maybe these heels are making her more confident, maybe making her legs look a little bit longer, and so on. So there might be hidden things, and it's not only about just making comfortable things, very always practical and particularly targeted and particularly designed by rules and so on.
I think her heels and the heels we are all wearing and sometimes suffering, but they do serve a function, and maybe the function they need to serve is make us look thinner, or I don't know. I mean, and it's also a function. It's a function, and I agree. It's okay. If it serves this, I'm fine with my high heels. Of course, I can't wait to change them into my sneakers, but for the time fraction, I'm happy if high heels do what high heels should do. Speaking about what we as users expect nowadays from design, so what a good design object should be. If it's a mix of many things, like it should be sustainable, it should think about, reach out for social issues. As Tanja said, design not only helps to solve certain problems, but somehow detects the problems before anyone else would realize that there's this problem. So there's so many things we expect from good design. Beauty being part of this mix is growing or becoming less and less important because of sustainability and not producing one more item the world doesn't need. So where's beauty, do you think, nowadays in this mix?
What is beauty?
I know, it's becoming a literary festival. Yeah, it's another panel to give a proper definition for beauty. When I'm saying an object that somehow makes you want to look at. You find just beauty in that. I can't be more specific on this definition, but do you think it has become some sort of a luxury to create beautiful objects because so many other things come before that?
No, this was just my point, that it's really about the definition of the beauty. It really depends on the era, it depends on the culture, context, what beautiful is. But we can always talk about the harmony and the proportions and the thing as a whole. So otherwise you can't define the beauty, especially not for all times and all.
I see a trend, and maybe Giovanni can say is it a real trend or not, and maybe I'm wrong, but there's a trend of pretty ugly things. And when designers are trying to make things that wouldn't look very beautiful, because then it looks like it's losing the value. And these creating pretty ugly things, and even one image in my presentation was pretty ugly, collection, this overemphasizing things and creating something that is unexpected. So in my opinion, that beauty, what each generation understands as a beauty, that's another question. And even when I look at the students at Vilnius Academy of Arts, for example, sometimes some of them look homeless for me. But I understand that it's different approach and that different trends and different style, and not everybody wants to wear heels, and not everybody wants to wear sneakers. So we all are different, and what each of us define as a beauty, it's different. But on the other hand, in my opinion, that design should go around that aesthetic value. Because if you like that thing, you normally want to bring it home, you want to buy it, or of course designers are blamed for promoting this buying culture, but and often feel guilty for creating more things. But if there's no aesthetics, whether it's pretty ugly aesthetics or just a traditional beauty, then I'm not sure how this object is really popular and how can it get into people's hearts.
Would you agree with what she said, that there's this trend of... I know you always
Absolutely.
disagree. No, you
I
agree.
with that. No, yeah, it's true. Absolutely. It's a question of also in ID with the students, exactly. We have a problem to create not only an identity, but a target, a vision, you know? And what's contemporary world today? How do we know the present? No, this one is a problem, for example. A provocation. We don't have desire. There is someone that creates a desire for us. And we decide to spend the money or to follow a group of people because someone decided that we have to follow someone. And we spend the money exactly because now is a trend. And this one is the problem. How is possible to create this opportunity or this level, no? Now a lot of people spend tons of money, really tons of money, in the Central Land. What's the Central Land? The Central Land is a virtual space where you can buy a pair of sneakers that you don't wear never in your life. But you spend tons of money and you show to your friend, look at this, what's that? And this one is part of the future. The idea that it's possible to live, metaverse, live in another world, full of design. No, you can walk in the museum. You can decide to do a shopping. You can have an avatar that wear the shoes or the garments. And what's that? That is another target. And a lot of people, NFT, blockchain, and a lot of people change completely the idea. And the future of design it's not easy to recognize it, because we live exactly in the balance between the phygital. Phygital is an incredible new world, It's in the middle between physical and digital, The idea that after 2 years of pandemic, after the 2 years of pandemic, we wanted to have experience, but in the same times, after 2 years, we prefer to have a distance between me and the other, so this is now the moment. Tomorrow will be different.
When you don't work in your own practices, but you give lectures or you teach, do you encourage your students or your viewers to, well, not use art, but take into consideration what art offers when you think about design, any field of design? Would you encourage them to always turn to art, look at art, go to museums, use that energy that's there, or that history, the tradition that's there?
You probably have a bigger teaching experience than me, so...
I mean, I really honestly believe that an artist must have a really broad view and perspective, that he has to be acquainted with the art, design, other fields of art, the society as the whole, to whatever is going on in the world. So it's not really about learning about design, but have really wide perspective. So yes, I absolutely encourage them to see art, but also, I'm heading the applied art segment, which is between industrial design and art. So with my students, we do both design projects and art projects and installations. And sometimes we take as the starting point the same original idea or the same inspiration, and then we would turn into two directions after the original study. So, yeah, we take different perspectives.
Giovanni?
Yes, of course. I encourage. When I teach in ID, I start with art. Art for me, it's the inspiration. You can use the art to design something. Of course, provocation. You are not an artist in general, no? It's sometimes when I talk with someone, "Oh, what's your job?" "I'm an artist." No, because another one, a group of other people decide that you are an artist, not that you are. No, someone decide that your process, your story, your artworks, no, all together, no, and then you are an artist. You know, and so my students is the same. No, at the end of the project, at the end of the process, at the end of the long part of your life, you can be an artist, but you can use an artist like an inspiration.
Many years ago, a guy wanted to date me, and he probably wanted to impress me when I asked him, what's your idea of your profession? And he said, "I want to be a philosopher." And I felt like, no way you will become one, because if you really intended to be a philosopher, you would just never say this. You would just want to read and think and read and think and read and think, and after like 20 years say something about where you are. I think it was a great idea to bring this design exhibition to the same building where people come to see the art market, to see works of art, and to see both and understand that these two fields are so interconnected in terms of forms and ideas and attitudes in creation. And I'm really thankful that you shared all these very personal and very emotional ideas of the combination and the connection of these two. Let me have one closing question, which will be personal. Can you recall a visit to a museum that was so meaningful that somehow you remember that? Somehow that stayed with you, you could use it in your work, a meeting with a work of art that was so important that you can just recall it and say, that was a wow moment for me in a museum.
I think I have an answer. I think that these experiences that happen unexpectedly, they're usually the most influential. And I think I will always remember when I saw Anish Kapoor exhibition in Berlin for the first time. And that was really mind-blowing, and seeing all these kinetic expositions, exhibits, and also seeing this real black color and these objects that you were used to see before just in some books, that's really overwhelming. And for me, that's probably the most influential visit ever, even it's not like 100% connected with design.
For me, it's difficult really to think about one, but yes, maybe the first experience with Richard Serre's large installation sculptures. The first time, I think it was Venice Biennale, or later in the States at MoMA, when you really have another perspective of space and time and your presence in it. But I think when you mentioned the influences, I wouldn't say it's just like visual arts, but you can take these very strong impressions also from music, from, I don't know, for me it was Eichmann's ballet in St. Petersburg that really, really impressed me, and so on. So it's like many different things, yes.
Of course, the list of museums, it's incredible, no? It's Hermitage or many other. But I have my favorite museum, the museum of my heart is in Venice, is Palazzo Fortuny.
Exactly what I wanted to say.
Palazzo Fortuny is an unbelievable place. It's the real habit of Mariano Fortuny Madrazo. Was the first multidisciplinary designer, because he was a photographer, printer, painter. He invented the lamp that now we use during the shooting. He created a pattern, dresses, the famous Delos dress, no? And his house is full of inspiration, emotion. There is also a decadent spirit and mood, but in the same time there is an energy. And I work for 4 years in Venice, but every year when I move for the Biennale Art and Architecture, I spend one day there because it's my heart is there.
Thank you so much for saying it, because when I was addressing this question to you and I started thinking, what would I say? I would have said Palazzo Fortuny, and I would have said one exhibition which was called Proportions, and that was mind-blowing, and it included art and design thinking, and you just had no other way but to understand that everything relates to everything and everything comes from everything, and this is a beautiful network
but
of
it's
ideas.
incredible because every year during the Biennale they create a contemporary section, and it's amazing how this contemporary section are able to live exactly with the story and the history and the ancient building. It's a perfect miracle.
It's actually a miracle. It makes you want to cry, actually, sometimes at certain
And
times.
Nora, exactly this exhibition that you mentioned, Proportion, we were talking about the students before, and that was our theme for the whole year.
No.
Just that exhibition, that trip, because
No.
it really opened so many ways in design and art projects with it.
Thank you so much, once again, for sharing all these. I just want to repeat, because it's so very intimate and personal, how people create, and people are part of this flow. So thank you once again, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will spend the rest of the day here, and I hope you will also have a chance to see what the 360 design exhibition offers you today and tomorrow. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.